Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Mendel Manifesto podcast. So, I want to create this podcast just because it seems fun, just talking about sports and talking about like the aspects that aren't commonly talked about, such the logos, the jerseys, just like the history of the team names and everything. But I also want to add some aspects of pop culture, just like reviewing movies and such. So, right now, I'm just going to talk about the plan moving forward. So, I want to make this podcast as genuine as I can, so I don't see myself just editing a lot, and so if I mess up, you'll know about it. I do not currently have a schedule for this podcast, but I am hoping for 2 episodes a month, but I definitely will have at least 1 episode a month. So beside me, I do have notes just to keep me on topic. So I will like to have these episodes somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour, but it just depends on how I'm feeling, what we're talking about for the episode, and stuff like that. So I will be discussing what's currently going on in the world, but I do want to focus on a theme for every episode. And I do plan on having guests in these episodes, as well as a Q&A section for every episode. And I've also thought about having like quizzes and stuff for my guests, and so just let me know if that's something you'd like to listen to, see, or whatever. So today's episode is just going to be about the summer in review, and then talking about the fall. And so the most important thing that happened this summer was the World Cup. It was one of the best World Cups I think I've ever seen. Just the underdogs won. The teams you didn't want to win lost. Germany should have been one of the teams in the quarterfinals. Couldn't even get past the group stage. So I want to say congratulations to France first and foremost for winning the World Cup. That's just the dream come true for them. They grew up watching their own country win it. I also want to say congratulations to Luka Modric. He deserved the World Cup's Golden Ball. He deserves being named FIFA's best player of the year. I would have loved to have seen Croatia win, just because of their backstories, from having to escape a war-torn country, and now just so close to being the best team in the world. So because this is a summer review episode, I want to congratulate the champions from the summer. So first, Hawaii Little League World Series won the Little League World Series. That's incredible. The Houston Dynamo, they won the U.S. Open Cup. Tiger Woods was fantastic for finally winning and coming back and sparking hope in the fans he's had. Will Power won the Indy 500. His name will always be remembered. And then, of course, being a Florida State fan, I have to congratulate the Florida State Seminoles softball team for winning the national championship. So next on my list is talking about the MLB. So the All-Star Weekend was incredible to watch. I love that Bryce Harper won the home run derby. He clearly showed passion, and I love playing for Washington, D.C., and I'm happy he was not traded. And congratulations to the Boston Red Sox, who won the World Series. So now I'm just going to say who I guess is going to win the awards for the season. So the AL MVP, I do believe it's going to Mookie Betts, but Mike Trout, I still believe, is the best player in the league. So the NL MVP, I think Christian Yelich will win it, but I would not be surprised if Javi Baez wins, because he does receive a ton of national media attention. For the AL Cy Young, I would not be surprised if any of the people won it, but I do think Blake Snell deserves to win it, even though he was not on a playoff team. The NL Cy Young, I think Jacob deGrom deserves it more than anyone, but his team did not do well, so I do expect Scherzer to win it. The AL and NL Rookie of the Years were announced last night, and the AL Rookie of the Year was Shohei Ohtani. I'm not really surprised by that. I did think a Yankees rookie was going to win it, though. The NL Rookie of the Year was Osuna Jr., which I thought that was a great choice, but Soto from the Nationals was very impressive this year. So my guess for the AL Manager of the Year, no surprise, it's going to be Cora from the Red Sox. He had the best team in baseball. I do believe he will win, but I think Kevin Cash did an incredible job leading his team to do so well, even though he had to manage a rebuild year. And for the NL Manager of the Year, I did not write this one down. So looking at all the candidates, I do believe any of them could win. I don't think any of them sticks out more than the other. So now I'm going to start talking about the NFL season so far. So the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Rams have just been incredible this year. Both one-loss teams. They'll be playing on Monday Night Football next week. And so Patrick Mahomes, Ryan Fitzpatrick, they were just incredible to watch. I'm kind of sad that Fitzmagic just kind of fizzled out once Jameis Winston was put back in. But that's just how it goes. This year has been a bad season for kickers. Multiple kickers have just been released throughout the season. And Justin Tucker surprisingly missed his first field goal, or PAT, I should say. And this season's just kind of crazy. So if you look at like Detroit Lions, they haven't been doing well this year, but they do have quality wins. So just some other accolades to mention. Adam Vinatieri, kicker for the Indianapolis Colts, is now the all-time leading scorer in NFL history. Larry Fitzgerald is second in all-time receiving yards as a receiver. And Drew Brees has become the all-time passing yards leader. And I am recording this episode after the deadline, so Le'Veon Bell will not be playing in 2018. I'm not really surprised. That's just, he had a reason for sitting out, and I did not expect him to come back at all this year. So some of my surprises this year are how good the Saints are doing. James Conner just being amazing. The Patriots not really doing too well, but they are the Patriots, so we'll probably expect them in the Super Bowl again. But even though I said that, I do believe it will be an LA Rams, Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl in Atlanta. So next is for college football. I'm not really surprised how well Alabama and Clemson are doing, both 10-0. Notre Dame's 10-0, and Michigan is right behind them in the fourth place. And Michigan's one loss was to Notre Dame, so of course they're in a top 4 position. Georgia at 5 and Oklahoma at 6 aren't really surprising. I could see them in the playoffs by the end of the year. LSU is the highest ranked 2-loss team, but they do have 3 wins in the top 5, so that's not really surprising. I love seeing Washington State at number 8. That's a school that takes pride in their football program, so I'd love to see them. No one's really talking about them as much as they should. So some surprises are Kentucky at 11, Syracuse at 13, and NC State at 14. Those are teams that are having really good years this year, but you really don't expect to hear that from these schools. These are known for basketball, and especially with Kentucky with 3 losses. Yeah, they had a lot of quality wins, but they're still 11th and they have 3 losses. That's like Mississippi State 4 losses at 16, or Michigan State at 18 with 4 losses. It's really surprising, especially since UCF, who has some big games coming up, they're on a 20-plus game winning streak, and they're not even in the top 10, which I just think is crazy. Their one job is to go out there and win, and they're doing it. And another piece I love is about college football is that I'm recording this on a Tuesday night, and we got some action. Some Western Michigan at Ball State football. So some of my predictions for college football to end out the season is I do expect Tua Tagovailoa to win the Heisman from Alabama. I do think Will Grier is very underrated there at West Virginia, but Tua's just been too good this year to not win the Heisman. And Kyler Murray from Oklahoma has been killing it. He's the only other guy I truly could see passing Tua, and that's only if Tua goes down injured in these next few games. And it's just crazy to me that Kyler Murray's future is in the MLB. not even in football. So right now I'm just going to talk about the NBA, what's happened so far. I do plan on just discussing the NBA more in some later episodes because it is pretty early in the season. So right now, NBA, there have been incredible games. Blake Griffin, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Derrick Rose have all had 50-point games, and it's just still early in the season. And other great performances, Julius Randle went perfect 10 for 10 against the Thunder. Serge Ibaka went 23 for 25 in back-to-back games. And Jamal Murray had a 48-point game against the Celtics. And those aren't even like the biggest news points of the season because now Jimmy Butler was traded to the 76ers, which now, because of the Celtics not doing as well as everyone was expecting them to, even though this is early in the season, the 76ers are probably now the favorite to win the East. So as I said before, I will just talk about the NBA more later in the season. I'll touch on it on probably every episode, but NBA focused episode will probably come around the the All-Star break and the playoffs. So just like earlier, I will be switching gears from the NBA season to college basketball. Again, it's just too early to say what's going to happen because of injury or anything, but Duke looks like they will not lose a game this year. I know that's hard to say, but Zion and RJ Barrett are just too good. The only other team I could see taking down Duke is Kansas, because Kansas has just as good of players, especially the freshmen. They don't have like a monster, the next Shaq like Zion, but they do recruit a ton of good freshmen, as well as adding an All-American from last year. So that's the only other team I could see right now that is going to be able to beat Duke. It's just kind of difficult to say because it is so early. Injuries happen, yada, yada, yada. Again, I'll talk more about this later. I'll focus on the college basketball later in the season. So now I'll shift gears, no pun intended, to NASCAR because now we are into the championship race. The championship 4 have been set. Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and Kevin Harvick all made the championship, which Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, if you follow the sport, those are the big three, quote-unquote. I really wish Chase Elliott would have made it. He was really hot in the playoffs, but just barely missed it. So 2 nights ago, William Byron was announced as the Rookie of the Year. No surprise there. He was incredibly good. So for NASCAR, it's hard to say who I think is going to win. Joey Logano's been hot in the playoffs, but the big three, there's a reason they're the big three. So I'm just now realizing I didn't add the MLS to my outline, my notes, whatever. So I'm going to just brush over that real quick. So the conference championships have been set. Sporting Kansas City and Portland in the Western Conference final or championship. No surprise that Sporting Kansas City is there because they're the 1 seed in the West. Portland as the 5 seed, not really supposed to be there, but they've done what they needed to earn their opportunity. And for the Eastern Conference, it'll be Atlanta and the New York Red Bulls. New York Red Bulls, the 1 seed, Atlanta, the 2 seed. So those are the 2 seeds that are supposed to be there. And because I do have a friend that's from Atlanta, I followed them pretty well this year. And there's no surprise Atlanta is in the conference final. I would not be surprised if they win the MLS Cup. They've just been so good. Joseph Martinez having a record year. Almiron's been good. Guzan's been good. Nagby, as always, has been good. So it'd just be interesting to see how both these legs turn out for both conferences to see who plays on December 8th for the MLS Cup. And before I get to the Q&A section for this episode, I just want to give a shout out to my friend Trey Brown. He was one of the people that influenced me to start making the podcast. His podcast is the Highly Opinionated Podcast on SoundCloud. Just type in Highly Opinionated in the search bar and find the one that has Bobby Knight throwing a red chair, and that'll be his. It's a great podcast. I love listening to it, so you should go check it out. So instead of a Q&A section for this first episode, I'm just going to tell you a little more about me. So I'll start with I've always lived in Indiana, and I'm a college student. I study sport management. My favorite teams are for college, Florida State. NFL are the Indianapolis Colts, the Pacers for the NBA, the Red Wings for the NHL, Chelsea FC for soccer, but I do follow the Indy 11 because that's my hometown team. Roger Federer, he's been my favorite tennis player growing up, and Jordan Spieth as my favorite golfer. That's because when he won the Masters the first time, that's the only time I've actually watched the Masters all 4 days, so that's why I picked him. So now I found some questions online, and I'm just going to answer these to finish this podcast. So the first thing is, if you could travel anywhere, where would it be? My choice would be maybe Rome or Greece. I really want to go to Europe, but I like the historical value of those places, and I just think it'd be great to experience. The next one is, what's your favorite family vacation? I think the best vacation I've had is probably going to Disney with my grandparents and one of my good friends. The next question is, what is your favorite book to read? I'd say my favorite book series was definitely the Percy Jackson. I love the mythology and everything like that, so that really was right in my wheelhouse. What was the last movie I went to? It would be Venom, and I actually really liked it, even though the critics hated it for some reason. Would I rather vacation in Hawaii or Alaska? I'd definitely say Hawaii. I hate cold weather, so Alaska's not really something I would consider. What was my first job? My first job was being a pizza delivery guy. It was really a great job. Like, you made really good money and just to drive around and listen to music. So how many languages do I speak? I only speak English, but I really want to start learning Spanish and German. So this next one's really good. If you could eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be? And my first thought is just like a chicken parmesan. You get the chicken, noodles, bread, just everything. I love that stuff, so it's perfect. This next one, which would you rather do? Wash dishes, mow the lawn, clean the bathroom, or vacuum the house? I'd say do laundry. I'm not really a fan of any of those other ones, so I would just make my own category. What would I sing at karaoke night? Now, this is a really good one. So if you know me, you know I would say something country. I can't really think of a specific song I would choose right now, but it would definitely be something country. If I was a superhero, what powers would I have? I'd say probably to be able to control like lightning. That's always been like a weird interest of mine since I was a little kid, and that's just the first thing that came to my mind. What was the first amusement park I'd ever been to? Kings Island, without a doubt. And then I'd say Six Flags in Kentucky. How many tattoos do I have? I don't have any, but I do want that to change very soon. And so that is going to conclude this episode's Q&A section. I just wanted to use some questions that weren't normally this is how you get to know me, my favorite color is blue, or something like that, something simple. Wanted to just tell you a little bit more about who I am, but I didn't really want it to be generic. And as I said earlier, I just want to be genuine. So this is a shorter episode, or shorter than what I want these episodes to turn out to. So just for any updates that aren't in the podcast, follow my Twitter at Mendel Manifesto. That's probably going to be the best way I update the people who listen and everything. And I also want to say, sadly, rest in peace to Stan Lee. He's known for creating Marvel comics and mainly just most of the superheroes that people grew up knowing. It's really sad that he passed away. So he will be missed very much, but the impact he had on so many people in this world, just from creating smiles and building imagination and everything, is just incredible. And rest in peace, Stan Lee. And I just want to say, until the next chapter, thank you for listening.